So the Sunday before Christmas, Melissa James asked her Sunday school class to draw a picture of the Holy Family. As she looked over their drawing, she saw the usual, like Joseph leading the donkey or a scene from the manger, and Mary in the manger as well. The exception was a picture drawn by little Bradley. He drew a picture of an airplane with four heads sticking out the windows. And Melissa said to Bradley, "I'm guessing the three of the heads are Joseph, Mary, and Jesus, but who is the fourth?" "Oh," Bradley said, "that's Pontius the Pilate." So it sounds like little Bradley had his holidays mixed up, but it was still pretty logical thinking, I thought. So Merry Christmas. Merry, 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 Merry. Well, what's it like to be merry? I guess it means being happy and playful, energetic, upbeat, excited. But really, is that the best thing we could wish for a loved one? Wonder how it feels to the millions of people who get depressed over the holidays to be constantly greeted, "Merry Christmas." Yeah, right, they say. Easy for you to say. Yeah, easy for me to say if my life presently looks and feels like a Hallmark card, right? So what might be a more meaningful blessing to offer? We could say, "I wish you joy this Christmas." How about that? If you happen to be one of those people whose life is not picture perfect, joy is very good news. Because joy is far less fleeting than happiness and far less dependent on outer conditions. The interior state of well-being called joy is a gift of the Spirit available to everyone. It is a steadfast flame that sits underneath all those everyday ups and downs, underneath that roller coaster ride that drags us around from one emotion to the other. It may occasionally bank down, or it may flame into bliss, but mostly, to me, joy is like a pilot light that glows from the center, drawing people to its warmth and allowing our eyes to open, allowing us to see the many beautiful things that are right in front of our faces. In Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, it reads, "When I was a child, I thought like a child, spoke like a child, and reasoned like a child. But when I grew up, I put away childish things. As a child, I saw things imperfectly, perceiving only partial truths. But when I matured in God, I saw all things with perfect clarity. I knew God as God knew me." Well, happiness, the way the world defines it, is one of those imperfect ideas. It's not wrong, it's only incomplete. By midlife, most of us are beginning to understand that happiness brought about by things in the material world does not last. And this is a vitally important awareness, because we can only experience true joy once we are ready to give up our frantic search for happiness. One of the basic truths of Buddhism is impermanence. It teaches that all things of this earth are finite and mortal. All things of this world are impermanent. Why, life itself is a terminal condition, is it not? To me, the philosophy of impermanence is anything but depressing. On the contrary, it makes me feel more awake and alive, and ask myself questions like this. How much time do I want to spend being upset over small problems and disappointments? How many opportunities to go for the gold do I really want to pass up? So many of us, it seems, have the cart before the horse. We spend the least amount of our time, attention, and energy on that which we really love. And I think it's pretty hard to feel joyful while depriving ourselves of the very things that our souls most long for. If we're wise, we'll focus in on the things that truly matter, the things that we truly cherish, and we'll handle those things and those people or those pets or that work with tender and gentle care. So I ask you on this last Sunday of Advent before Christmas Day to consider what it is that truly feeds your soul and causes your heart to open. Is it your family? If so, is your family getting most of your time and energy? Is it your spiritual growth? Then what percentage of your thought and time do you spend attending to your spiritual life? Is it discovering and living your life purpose? Then why are you grinding away every day in a job you dislike? Does some cynical part of you just whisper, yeah, sure, but doing what I love doesn't pay the bills? I know that voice myself. This is when I'm really clear that being in an adult body does not necessarily mean I put away childish things. What if it's literally impossible for any of us to be prosperous unless we're doing the things that we love to do? This is something to think about. There's a story about two eminent psychologists who traveled halfway around the world to ask the Dalai Lama about their theories on human behavior. The Dalai Lama had received their questions in advance, and so he was prepared for them. When they arrived, he immediately brought them into his garden and poured them tea, as was his custom. Though the two small cups he was pouring into were full, he kept pouring, and tea overflowed until one of the psychologists politely but awkwardly said, "Your Holiness, the cups can hold no more." And the Dalai Lama stopped pouring and said, "Your minds are like those cups. You know way too much. Empty your minds and come back, and then we'll talk." Thus, the two who had traveled so far for answers received in 5 minutes not the knowledge they came for, but much, much more. They received a hefty dose of wisdom. Are you like those psychologists in any way? Do you spend too much time in your head trying to figure things out? And not enough time in your heart getting in touch with what really matters to you? Here's a truly wonderful paradox. St. Paul said that in maturity we must put away childish things. But Jesus told us that we must become like children to enter the kingdom of heaven. Could it be that our adult obsession with control over outer things is the part of us that's really childish? That true maturity is purity of heart and innocence of spirit and the willingness to surrender control and trust our hearts and follow our joy. Made me think of little 5-year-old Emma, who was cast in the role of a star of Bethlehem in the church Christmas pageant. And her mother was pretty disappointed because Emma would have no lines to speak. But after the dress rehearsal, Emma burst through the front door of the house, wearing her costume, a 5-pointed gold star adorned with lots and lots of shiny tinsel draped over her like a sandwich board. "What exactly will you be doing in the play?" her skeptical mother asked. And Emma pulls herself up to her full height with her head erect, and she reminds me of somebody in this room. And she replies, "I just stand there and shine." For us elders who have experienced considerable disappointment and loss, being childlike may seem like a pipe dream. Yet the Christmas story and the Holy Family speak directly to our careworn hearts and challenge us to polish up that tarnished star inside and come back to life and find within ourselves the innocent Christ child who is still alive and well after all these years, patiently waiting for us to set aside our strange notions of adulthood. I've never met any adult wiser than my Greensboro neighbor's 4-year-old Alice. She was my guru. So it was Christmas time, and Alice had a bad cold, and she had to stay in bed for 2 days. This one's for you, Seth. And now her mother has taken her to the pediatrician. Oh, it's not for you. Which is something else she truly dislikes a lot. But the kind doctor looks into her ears with the otoscope, and he asks, "Do you think I'll find Big Bird in there?" And the little girl is sullen and silent. Next, he takes a tongue depressor and looks down her throat, and he asks, "Do you think I'll find Cookie Monster down there?" And Alice just glares at him. Then the doctor puts a stethoscope to her chest, and as he listens to her heart, he asks, "Do you think I'll find Barney in there?" "Oh, no," the little girl replied with a bright smile. "Jesus is in my heart. Barney is on my underpants." So this is my Christmas wish for you today. Take a stand for joy. Don't settle for cheap substitutes. And stop coping with situations that make you unhappy. Find the heart and soul of your life and live there while there's still time. I always remember my mentor, Mary Marcy, telling me, people think that they have a shortage of money. There's only one thing we have a shortage of, and that's time. Who is it? Somebody wise, probably Will Rogers, somebody said, "You can't do much about the length of your life, but you can do something about its width and its depth." So I'm going to end with something that's going to date me, but some of you are with me. So it's from Irma Bombeck. Irma Bombeck was a newspaper woman, most famous for her hilarious stories about being a mother and a housewife. Several years ago, having been diagnosed with a critical illness, she wrote a piece called "If I Had My Life to Live Over." If I had my life to live over, I would have gone to bed when I was sick, instead of pretending the earth would go into a holding pattern if I weren't there for a day. I would have burned the pink candle sculpted like a rose before it melted in the storage unit. I would have talked less and listened more. I would have invited friends over to dinner, even if the carpet was stained and the sofa was faded and the beef was overcooked. I would have eaten popcorn in the living room and go ahead and light the fireplace even if dirt got all over the carpet. I would have listened to my father ramble on with stories of his youth. I would have sat on the lawn with my kids and not cared if I got grass stains on my pants. I would have cried and laughed a lot less watching TV and a lot more because I was right in the thick of life. And I would have never bought anything just because it was practical, wouldn't show soil, or was guaranteed to last a lifetime. And she reached back for this one and she said, instead of complaining through 9 months of pregnancy, I would have cherished every moment and realized that the wonder growing inside of me was my chance to assist God in a miracle. I would have criticized a lot less, she said. And there would have been a lot more I love yous and just as many I'm sorry's. But most of all, given another shot at life, I would seize every minute, look at it, and really see it, and live it to the hilt, and not waste a bit of it. And I say to her, amen, sister. I love you guys. You're joys in my life. May your hearts be alive and with joy and peace this Christmas time and all through the year. Enjoy. Blessings.